Okay guys, welcome to the video. So today what I was going to talk about is shoe recommendations. So one thing right off the bat is we don't give specific recommendations to what shoe a patient should be in, but we do recognize that as a clinician, we should be aware of when our patient is in the wrong shoe, or it might be something that is contributing to some of the issues that you're having. So I did want to just spend a little bit of time today talking about why it is important to know if you're in the right shoe and kind of what you can do about it. So a couple of things right off the bat. So I want to actually run through some mechanics of the foot. So I want you to understand what happens and why it's important to be able to pay attention to that and where shoes kind of come into play. So here's what happens. So we'll show you a couple different angles here. So when our foot hits the ground, okay, and we're showing heel first. I know there's some variations to that. We're just going to just stick with that. So our heel hits the ground. We roll towards the front from here. This is really important. What happens is we actually lose a little bit of our arch in our foot, okay, and that term is called pronation. We actually roll in a little bit, and then muscles take over and we start to lock out our foot, and then we come back out of that again, okay? So we'll look at it from the front. Heel hits the ground, we roll into it, we flatten out that arch, muscles take over, and then we push off or propel forward, okay? So that's kind of normal mechanics. So when there's so many things going on there, and we want to make sure that they have the right things around to be able to control that. So obviously motion in our joints, muscles have to be strong enough. We got to be able to control that movement. But on top of that, we got to make sure that we're in the right shoe as well. Okay. So what types of shoes are there? So, and obviously we're talking about more of an athletic shoes, running and walking shoes, things like that. So the spectrum of shoes that there is, so our most supportive shoes are considered motion control. And I don't have an actual shoe here, but I have actually the guts of a shoe. So this is just the midsole of a shoe. And I'll kind of walk through some of the anatomy here as well. So this is just the midsole, the bottom. So picture the shoe kind of coming up top, laces up here. So you see how kind of big and bulky that is, and I'll compare it to another shoe here. You see there's just a little bit less. So our motion control is going to be kind of the top of the spectrum as far as how stiff it is and how built up it is. And we'll put some of these in if we see somebody is not able to control that motion as their foot hits the ground, they start to roll forward. If they have too much of excessive roll, sometimes a motion control might be something that's recommended for them. Okay, maybe they still need some stability, but they don't need as much. We would go to more of a stability shoe. So that would be our next one in the spectrum. So we talk about motion control. Next one's our stability shoe. So here's an example of a stability shoe here. And you see, again, we're looking at the midsole here. It's still built up quite a bit, not as much as the motion control, but it still is have a little bit more of a buildup than our next one down, which I'll show you here. And then this one too is not gonna be quite as stiff as the motion control shoe, okay? Keep going down the line here, and now I have a neutral shoe, okay? In a neutral shoe, you can see it's built up even less, okay? And this one's definitely gonna be a little bit more flexible. So this is for somebody when they go through that gait cycle, they really don't have any issues. They stay in a neutral gait, and so they just really need to kind of guide that all the way through, okay? So those are really the three big spectrums of shoes. Obviously there's some branches off the side. You could have a trail shoe. There's some minimalist shoes now. Minimalist shoes are going to be where so even though this is a neutral shoe, it still has some cushion to it. A minimalist shoe is going to have very little cushion, and it's going to be even more flexible than this, okay? But obviously it's important to know, okay, so you have all those spectrum of shoes, which one should you be in? So again, our job as a clinician is not to tell you this shoe, but we do want to recognize when you're in the wrong shoe. And we work with plenty of some really good stores in the area. that know the inside and out of which shoes are coming out, which ones are going to fall into which category. So we take advantage of our relationship with those guys. So we'll make sure in the comment below, we'll leave the list of some of the stores in the area that we do recommend. So if you want to go see if you need a new pair of shoes and you want to get really good expert advice, we'll make sure we leave those guys in the comment below. So, okay. And just the last thing that I want to point out to you too is there's no, kind of magic shoe. So some people might watch this video and they might expect me to tell them, hey, you need to go out and get the shoe. And that's not really the path that we're going with this, but a couple things that you do want to pay attention to. Comfort is really important. So there's plenty of studies out there that actually show that if somebody's wearing a shoe that they don't consider comfortable, then they are going to have some type of mechanical change. Their gait's going to change in some way. So comfort is very important. So if you're on the fence about whether you need it, is it comfortable? You got to ask yourself that question. And then the other thing too is how often do shoes need to be replaced? So the kind of generic rule is every 300 to 500 miles. Obviously a shoe store is going to tell you to stick with that. Some of that is going to depend on how heavy you are. So lighter runners might be able to get away with a little bit more than that 300 to 500 range. Heavier person might not be able to get away with that. So I hope that made sense for you guys. If you have questions, please let us know. But otherwise, like I said, comfort is important. Make sure you're not overwearing your shoes, and then check out the recommendations that we have in the area for really good, smart, knowledgeable stores in the area. So, and we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.